Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to Sandling Junction and a little November update for the layout. Now, it's been a couple of months since I've put out a video and a couple of people have sort of commented, where am I, what's going on? Well, I have been extremely busy with my business as an artist. I am a wildlife and landscape artist, as many of you know, and I have my gallery to run. I also have a lot of online strategies for teaching and memberships with Patreon and all that sort of stuff. So it has been keeping me extremely busy. So in recent weeks, I have had just a couple of evenings free to get up here and do a little bit of work. And what I've been concentrating on is trying to get the last bit of tracks down, and that will leave me clear to start doing all the scenery, or at least make a start on the scenery for the layout and make some differences other than just board and track. So yeah, the last couple of bits of track I'm leaving for you guys to give me some suggestions. In this video you'll see what I mean when you get to it, and if you've got any thoughts, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas just to make those final little bits of track on the layout over there to come to fruition, and so I can sort of close that chapter off. I've also been working on the two engine sheds, one in particular, I think I ended in the last video, where it's pretty much beaten up over the last few years from when it was first employed on No Name Junction, I look back. And so that's been repaired. I want to show you that little bit of process. Some of the footage, unfortunately, I lost, and so I don't have all of the bits and pieces during the course of, but I think there's enough there for you to get an idea what went on. And also I put the roads in, got them live, done a little bit of work with playing around with the turntable, a little bit of footage there. I hope that's not too boring. And to end with, I actually did a lovely weekend at the Folkestone Model Railway Club show at the Lees Cliff Hall in October. I was asked to demonstrate for the weekend some weathering, so there's just a wee bit of footage right at the end of this video, and right at the end of that there is a few photographs of what I actually managed to achieve during the course of that weekend's event. So stick with it, enjoy it, go to the end, and I'll catch you all in the next video coming up very soon, I'm sure. Take care everybody, happy modeling, have fun, see you soon in the next one. Bye bye for now. Okay guys, now welcome back to the repair, I guess you could call it, the repair of this engine shed. And when I made it, with a lot of help from the chap who designed the kits from L-Cut Designs, when I made it, I needed a lot of help from him. I was really not very good at this sort of thing at the time, and probably still not that good now. But that all said and done, he gave me a lot of help, and I created it. Now, it worked perfectly during the course of its use on No Name Junction and then later on Sandling Junction as an engine shed. However, over that time, or the time since that time, as I explained in a previous video, this has suffered greatly. Now, it suffered from maybe fluctuations in the temperatures and the warm and the cools, etc., all of those things, but moreover it has been bashed and knocked, and all the infrastructure in here on the columns that were once in place throughout have long been broken off. The last little bit I took off this morning. There is you can't really show it on camera so easily. I don't know if you can see that, but there are massive sags in the roof. The timbers here are all over the show when it comes to whatever it should be like. And moreover here, now way back when I made this, the sides were moving. They were sort of bowing in. I had lots of problems with that. So I used a lot of sticks. I forget what this was. It wasn't a lolly stick, but it was an attempt to try and keep everything rigid and straight, and that's why you've got this here. In a way, it was fortunate, because I feel that over the time it would have been a lot worse. And it is bad, but it would have been a lot worse than that. And And so I'm at that point now, is what do I do? Do I scrap this or do I repair it? Well, I think I've alluded to the fact that if I don't use this, then I have got to build a new one fairly promptly, because I need to measure off where the tracks are going. However, it's going to be some time before I get really good enough to build a 3-road engine shed like this from my laser engraver. I'm struggling, as you know, at the moment to build the single short shed, but that is coming on and I'm looking forward to getting that really finished off. So what do I do with this? Well, partly I want to make this so that I can have this on and off the layout without too much of a problem. So 2 ways I can do that. I can make this just lift off and that will be fine. However, if I put this on a base, which I'm thinking of doing, then it will give a rigid internal platform to this structure. It will stop this movement in this way. It will keep the walls out as it should be, and the supports will be sitting down here as they ought to. And I've cut them this morning. I've cut some 2mm and I've cut some 3mm, which I think the 3mm are replicas of what used to be in there, and that will help push and keep the roof at the angle that it should be in future. So that's what I think I'm going to do. However, it will make the operation inside of this, once it's done, once this is glued down to a base, it will make it that much harder, because you can't suddenly lift it off. And I don't want to add something else and keep raising the level. But fortunately, these pieces of wood that I applied before are 3mm. So what I've done is I've carefully measured in here, and I'm going to add a little bit here, and so that I can create a 3mm MDF base to sit in here and keep everything rigid as it should be. Yeah, one of the problems I didn't do before I painted it, before I did everything else to it, is I didn't understand the fact that I should have possibly sealed this. And I think all the paint work that I did on this subsequently, all the weathering that I did on this shed subsequently, have warped the shed. And you know, you got to say absolutely nothing against the gentleman who designs these kits even today. He does a marvelous job. So I don't want you to think that I am knocking El Cut at all. I really am not. I've got nothing but praise for him, as I've got nothing but praise for anybody, including Steve from Laser Lines, who go above and beyond to create wonderful kits and go through all the problems that I've been going through, and a lot more, I guess, in creating models that they can then sell to you, knowing that it's going to work. So yeah, hats off to everybody in that sphere. But I am trying to resurrect this old one. I've never ever even got to the point of putting the doors on. I still have those in a box somewhere. I'm going to have to find those. But anyway, enough of all the rabbiting on. I'm going to crack on. I'm going to cut the base and we're going to go from there and we're going to see what happens. Okay, so I have cut a base. Now, unfortunately, this is just a tad, about 2mm too long for this to be one solid piece. So what I've elected to do is to make sure that the front is where it should be, and just have the weeniest gap at the back, which really I'm not worried, but you can see how the sides bow out on this. So I think at the end of the day, to make this work, I am going to seal this board with the appropriate varnish. I am going to set the track in it and work that out and glue that down so that it comes up to the start here, and we can then continue on out. And then I will quite simply put in all of the bracing in here and the front bracing, and I will quite happily then glue the whole thing down. I will paint this board a dark, dirty, blackish brown color, glue the track in, and then I will glue the engine shed to this base with that minute 2mm gap at the back. It's just unfortunate, but there's nothing I can do about it. Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome back. Now, it's been about a month since that footage that you saw at the beginning of this video was made. and I got so far with the repair. You saw the little bit of engraving that I did for some of the shed and replacing certain parts of it, so that's fine. I then went on to complete the repair. I glued the shed down to this board and had it all set up, sitting on here. It looked very, very good, bearing in mind how bad it looked at the start. And I didn't film it. I do not know what went wrong. It did not record, or if I did record it, I have no idea where the footage ended up, but I haven't got it, so I can't show you that. So okay, I thought, what do I do now? I'm just going to have to carry on. And so the shed was attached to this 10 minutes ago. And I've made a few decisions. I worked out the track, worked out where this was going. I actually have also put those bits of cork in to raise the level up. And I suddenly realized that how am I going to power this long term? Now in the future iteration, I'm going to make a design that has the bed like this and the droppers through, but then the new shed will just sit on here. It may be that I put a different piece of board in with different track on, but I think that's the way it's going to go. And because my shed was already glued down, I had to make a decision that I couldn't easily put droppers in here. And then I realized that this board here had warped in the month since I was here last. So I made the decision to take the shed off. Now all of that was filmed as well, but not. I've lost that. I don't know what happened. The thing did record, but something it didn't write to the memory card. So all of that footage has gone as well. So I'm going to just have to fill in the gaps for you guys and tell you what it was. So the shed was on there. It sat pretty. There was no track in front. And my dog's barking. And in the purpose of doing this, I broke these pieces off again. So they've got to be substantially repaired. And there we are. That's what it is. All of these you saw me cut on the laser, and they've been replaced. So they're okay. There's no problem with those. And they've stopped the sag and they brought the roof back to where it should have been. This has got to be dealt with. And these things that are going to go back in here are going to have to be cleaned up and reinforced, or else they're going to look awful. They don't look great, but they're going to look awful. So that's where this is at right now. I took this off for good reason, because I really need to be able to access this track in the future. I need to play around with it. I need to clean it. And I also decided that I'm going to put droppers to it, because I don't want any attachment here. I want this to meet this one. Now because of this warping, I am going to, or I have decided that I'm going to screw this down here, here and the back, and probably in the center. 6 or half a dozen screws in there, just to hold that dead flat, so that when this does come on, it is all playing off the same field, as it were, and I've got no rising parts. And that's really why I had to put this together on there. I'm going to press on with that. And how much of it I film, I do not know, but we're going to get on with it and see where it takes us for the rest of this video. And don't forget, there is still that little bit of filming of me modelling and weathering at the recent Folkestone Model Railway show at the Lees Cliff Hall. I had a wonderful weekend there demonstrating to people, and I'll show you a little bit of footage at the end of that as well, and a couple of the wagons that I did for it. So there we go. All right, let's crack on. Okay guys, and a very warm welcome back to Sandling. And I do have a couple of hours up here this evening to do a little bit more work on the layout, and I just felt that I would sort of bring you up to date with what's been going on lately. Now, in the last part of the video you saw where I was sort of laying some of the track work in on that engine shed, doing another major repair on it where I damaged it and I separated it from the base because I felt that was in the short term the best thing to do. And since that time I've laid the track, and I've also laid the two tracks into the other engine shed. Now, none of them are powered up at the moment. I'm hopefully going to do that this evening, but I also want to turn my attention to not only this lovely glass of red wine, which I'm going to enjoy while I do a bit of work up here this evening, but also the remaining bit of track over on the fiddle yard to the left of where the camera's pointing right now. There's that elusive glass of red again. Yeah, you can see that as before, I've still got this little area over here, the back, to do. And once that's done, then all my track work is laid, apart from the two-road engine shed, which I've yet to do, but that takes a little bit more time of setting up. But certainly all the surface track will be done, and that will allow me then to get on and do some scenery. Well, in a way, yes, because I've still got a little bit to do with the track. What I've got to carry on doing is to do all the painting of the track. And that brings me on to a nice little point. I just wanted to say a big warm welcome back to Tim from Scrapline, or Exeter and Lara. I saw a video that he put out to say he's back on the scene, and that's after an absence of 3 or so years. So it's great to see him back in the hobby, and he's just a master. And if you are getting into modeling, scenic work and weathering, then check out his channel. And if you're not a subscriber, then subscribe to Tim's channel, Scrapline or Exeter and Lara. I'm not sure which name it's going under, but find it, join it, because that guy is just a mindful expertise when it comes to weathering and modeling, and I've learned so many things off of him over the years. So yeah, welcome back, Tim. Great to have you on board, mate, and great to see you back in the hobby. And I can't wait for your future videos coming out. I can learn an awful lot more. Anyway, enough of that. I am going to get on, and I just want to start looking at this area and getting some of that track finalized so I can finally get on with some landscaping. Okay, so this is where I'm at the moment. Now, it's possibly one more point which I had expected to put in, and either 3 roads remaining or 2 roads. I want to get a refueling section, and now this is just an old Pico one. I do have a Nightwing one which I want to put in, and that will go in. I'm not sure of the width of it, so maybe I should be checking that before I go racing on ahead. I don't know, but hopefully it will be fine. So I think that maybe I should make the Nightwing up before I set these roads. However, the option is that I bring this one around to become another siding, and then I put that point in, and then I can run the refueling out through here in some sort of fashion like that. Now, I don't think that that really gives it enough room, and for the sake of one more siding, which is fun, I get it, but maybe I should just stop at just 2 roads, get rid of this one, take this point out altogether, and put in a nice little angle through here where I can bring in the refueling in here, something like that, so it looks like a distinctly different area within the yard itself. It does save another point, it does save a little bit more track, and gives a little bit more room for infrastructure, refueling lorries and other things, roads coming in here. And I'm tempted to bow to those that tell me I've got way too much track on here already, and just be happy with what I've got. worst case scenario, I can always make this a little engine shed and put a point in here and just run another little siding there. I don't see the point in that. Excuse the pun, but I really don't see the reason for doing that other than just cramming a bit more in to put 2 or 3 more wagons on. So yeah, I'm sort of thinking that maybe this is where we go with this. Now, I don't want to build the Nightwing at the moment. What I might just do is see how big the footprint of it is, if there's a base for it in the kit. Just get that out and see how I run the lines down each side, see how close I need to get them. Of course, no good having a line out here if it's much narrower. The diesels will be too far away for it to be any effect. So that's where I'm at, really. I had thought of maybe putting that point in here. So we'll run that point there in the center. We still get our siding in here, like that. And we can run that one out a little bit. But once again, I think we're just crowding the issue. We can still get those 2 lines in like that and get our siding, our extra little siding in. But when you think about what you're doing now, or what I'm doing now, potentially, is that if I put this in like this, I'm going to have room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 5.5 wagons. Well, if you take the engine off as well, so you're down to about 4. So is it really worth crowding it out for 4 more wagon spaces on this part here? And go back to what I said just now, lose that last point and put this line in, put this line in. Now, I don't know again whether or not one would have had locomotives refilling both sides. I'm guessing that if you've got this sort of thing like this, that much like a petrol station for cars, you'd have access both sides of it for refuel. So I don't know. So what I think I'm going to do is stop, check the Nightwing, come back and see how this looks with just 2 more lines in, which will be a simple fix. And in actual fact, if I really wanted to delay this, and I think I just might delay this enough or long enough for an opinion from you guys. So let me know in the comments below, will you, what you think about I should be doing here, whether to put another point in here or in here, okay, and put another siding in, or take this round and 2 smaller chutes for the Nightwing to go in here, or just simply stop there and make it there. So you've got a little bit of ground here between, instead of piling up all the tracks. A little bit of room out the back here. It's a little simpler to model and for me to reach over just about. We're going to be putting a back scene in here somewhere, so a little one up in here. So that's why the cork stops. So yeah, I think that's sort of, I'm going to leave it to you guys to make the final decisions on how the track ends up on Sandling, or the new Sandling build. So what that means is, because I'm not worried about this operationally right now, I've got a bit of time to play, and I think that allows me time to start looking at painting the track and getting that to some sort of order. That is going to be a very painstaking job. I've also got to put an awful lot of extra sleepers in here to make the gaps up from where I put them in before. So I'm going to be pushing on with that, and hopefully by the time you get to see this video, I'll be well into that and you guys can give me some decent answers and suggestions. But I think if I had to hedge my bets, I think a lot of you will come down on the side of this simplicity than crowding out with an extra road, albeit for just 4 or 5 wagons on it. Adds a bit more shunting, but I don't know if that's good or bad. Anyway, I'll leave it to you, and I'm going to ramble on otherwise. I'll leave it to you, and we'll go from there. Okay, so what have I actually been doing this evening? Well, not too much. I have made all of those 5 rows off the turntable live. They are now connected and are running. I have programmed in the heads and the tails for these 5 tracks too. So we have tracks 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 10 operational. I have yet to set up tracks 2, 3 and 9. 9 being the one to the coal stays and the ash pit and things like that, and the other 2 and 3 will go into the diesel shed later on. But yeah, I've got the playability working, and I'm just going to run a few trains onto the turntable, and hopefully we'll see a little bit of action. If I get it right, we don't know. Anyway, let's see what happens.
ready to fall in the toilet.
Motors and things added.